Most people have been taught that selfishness is morally wrong and economically destructive. Politicians promise to save us from the greed of markets through regulation and redistribution. But what if I told you that decades of empirical research reveal the opposite truth? What if the pursuit of individual self-interest, properly channeled through free markets, actually produces more prosperity for everyone than any altruistic government program ever could? Today, we'll examine the overwhelming evidence that self-interested behavior, when operating within a framework of property rights and voluntary exchange, creates an invisible coordination mechanism that benefits society far more effectively than central planning or forced altruism. This isn't philosophy or ideology, it's demonstrable economic science. The data shows that nations embracing economic self-interest consistently outperform those trying to suppress it. By the end of this analysis, you'll understand why the pursuit of profit serves the public interest better than the pursuit of the public interest itself. Chapter 1: The Empirical Reality of Self-Interest. Throughout my years studying economic behavior at the University of Chicago, I've observed a fundamental truth that contradicts popular belief: self-interested individuals, operating in competitive markets, consistently produce outcomes superior to those achieved by well-meaning bureaucrats trying to serve the public good. Consider the simple act of buying groceries. The farmer grows food not from altruism, but to earn profit. The trucker transports it for payment, not charity. The grocer stocks shelves to make money, not to serve humanity. Yet this chain of selfish actors ensures fresh food reaches millions daily with remarkable efficiency. No government agency coordinates this miracle, self-interest does. Compare this to government food programs. Despite spending billions with stated altruistic goals, government nutrition programs consistently deliver inferior results. The Soviet Union's collective farms, operated by officials claiming to serve the people, produced chronic shortages. Meanwhile, America's selfish agricultural system created such abundance that our main problem became obesity, not starvation. The data is unambiguous. Countries ranking highest on economic freedom indices, where self-interest operates most freely, consistently show higher living standards, longer life expectancy, cleaner environments, and greater social mobility. South Korea, embracing market incentives, transformed from poverty to prosperity in decades. North Korea, suppressing self-interest for collective goals, remains impoverished despite identical cultural heritage. This pattern repeats globally. Hong Kong's selfish entrepreneurs created one of the world's highest living standards. Cuba's altruistic central planners produced decades of stagnation. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that self-interest, channeled through market competition, serves society better than forced altruism channeled through government bureaucracy. Chapter 2: The Coordination Miracle of Market Prices. The most remarkable aspect of market-based self-interest lies in its information processing capacity. When individuals pursue their own economic interests, they generate price signals that coordinate the behavior of millions without any central authority. Consider how markets handled the 1973 oil crisis. No government committee decreed that Americans should drive smaller cars, use less heating, or develop alternative energy. Yet within months, self-interested consumers began purchasing fuel-efficient vehicles, businesses invested in energy-saving technologies, and entrepreneurs launched alternative energy ventures. Rising oil prices, reflecting genuine scarcity, automatically signaled everyone to economize without coercion. Contrast this with government's response: price controls, rationing, and bureaucratic allocation schemes. These well-intentioned policies created shortages, long gas lines, and economic disruption. When officials tried to override market prices with fair alternatives, they destroyed the information system that coordinates economic activity. The same principle applies to labor markets. When government sets minimum wages above market clearing levels, supposedly to help workers, the result is reduced employment opportunities, particularly for young and inexperienced workers. Self-interested employers would hire these workers at lower wages, providing valuable experience and income. Government intervention, motivated by altruism, instead sentences them to unemployment. Even charitable activities demonstrate this principle. Private charity, driven by donors' self-interested satisfaction from helping others, consistently outperforms government welfare in both efficiency and effectiveness. Private charities must satisfy donors to survive, creating accountability. Government programs, funded through taxation, face no such market test. The empirical evidence from monetary policy supports this framework. When central banks pursue politically popular goals like full employment rather than price stability, they create inflation that ultimately harms everyone. The Federal Reserve's most successful periods occurred when it focused narrowly on its own institutional interest in maintaining price stability, rather than trying to micromanage the entire economy for broader social goals. Chapter 3: Why Profit Maximization Serves Society. The pursuit of profit gets vilified as greedy exploitation, but examine what profit maximization actually requires in competitive markets. To maximize profits, businesses must provide goods or services that consumers value more than their cost of production. This seemingly selfish goal forces companies to serve others efficiently. Take any successful business, Microsoft, McDonald's, or Walmart. Each achieved massive profits by solving problems for millions of customers. Microsoft made computing accessible, McDonald's provided affordable convenient meals, Walmart offered low-cost goods to working families. Their selfish pursuit of profit required creating enormous value for others. Now think about this. Would you rather fly on an airline whose executives are trying to maximize profits, or one where management is trying to serve the public good? The profit-maximizing airline must keep customers satisfied to maintain revenue. Its self-interest aligns with passenger safety, comfort, and efficiency. The airline serving public good might justify poor service as character building or claim losses demonstrate noble intentions. Government agencies, by contrast, often pursue goals that sound altruistic but produce inferior results because they lack profit-based feedback mechanisms. The U.S. Postal Service, motivated by public service rather than profit, consistently loses money while providing slower, less reliable service than private competitors like FedEx and UPS. Education provides another telling example. Private schools, operating for profit, must satisfy parents or lose customers. This self-interested motivation produces higher test scores, better graduation rates, and greater parent satisfaction than government schools, despite spending less per student. Teachers' unions oppose school choice not from altruism, but from self-interest in protecting monopoly power. The pharmaceutical industry illustrates how profit motives drive innovation benefiting humanity. Companies invest billions developing new medicines because patent protection allows profitable returns on successful innovations. This selfish system has produced more life-saving medical advances than all government health research combined. Countries that suppress pharmaceutical profits get fewer new treatments and worse health outcomes. Historical evidence consistently supports this pattern. The 19th century's rapid economic growth occurred precisely when businesses could pursue profits with minimal government interference. Living standards rose faster for ordinary people during this supposedly selfish era than during any previous period in human history. Chapter 4: The Invisible Hand in Action. Adam Smith's insight about the invisible hand wasn't mere theory. It describes an observable economic phenomenon that we can measure and verify. When individuals pursue their own interests in competitive markets, they unknowingly coordinate their actions to serve broader social purposes more effectively than any conscious planning could achieve. Consider how self-interested behavior automatically addresses shortages and surpluses. When Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans, no government agency coordinated the relief efforts' logistics. Instead, self-interested truckers, seeing high prices for transporting supplies, drove hundreds of miles to deliver desperately needed goods. Profit opportunities drew resources to where they were most urgently needed faster than any bureaucratic allocation system could have managed. Critics called this price gouging, but the evidence shows that allowing prices to rise attracted supply and rationed demand precisely when both were most crucial. Government price controls, imposed with altruistic intentions, created shortages and prevented rapid recovery. The same mechanism operates continuously in normal times. When consumers demand more of any product, rising prices signal producers to increase output while encouraging consumers to economize. No central authority needs to decree these adjustments, self-interest coordinates them automatically. Labor markets demonstrate this invisible coordination daily. When demand for software engineers increases, rising salaries attract more people to computer science programs without any government workforce planning. Self-interested students respond to market signals faster and more accurately than bureaucratic forecasts. International trade provides perhaps the most dramatic example of invisible hand coordination. American consumers buying Japanese cars and Chinese electronics don't intend to promote global cooperation, yet their self-interested purchases create peaceful economic interdependence that makes war less likely. Countries that trade extensively rarely fight each other, not from altruism, but because war would disrupt profitable relationships. The Internet emerged through similar invisible coordination. No government planned its development, yet millions of self-interested decisions by entrepreneurs, programmers, and users created the most powerful communication network in human history. Government attempts to improve Internet operations through regulation consistently slow innovation and reduce efficiency. Even environmental improvements follow this pattern. As societies become wealthier through market activity, citizens demand cleaner air and water. Self-interested politicians respond to these demands, while businesses find profit opportunities in pollution control technologies. The richest countries have the cleanest environments, not despite their market economies, but because of them. Chapter 5: When Government Tries to Replace Self-Interest. Nothing demonstrates the superiority of self-interested coordination like examining what happens when government tries to replace it with centralized altruism. The 20th century provided numerous large-scale experiments in suppressing individual self-interest for collective goals, and the results were uniformly disastrous. The Soviet Union represents the most comprehensive attempt to eliminate profit motives and market coordination. For 70 years, central planners claimed to serve the people's interests better than selfish capitalism could. The result? Economic stagnation, chronic shortages, environmental destruction, and ultimately systemic collapse. Meanwhile, market economies achieved unprecedented prosperity during the same period. Consider healthcare, where many advocate replacing selfish, private medicine with altruistic, government systems. Countries with more market-oriented healthcare consistently deliver better outcomes. Americans receive faster treatment, have higher cancer survival rates, and get more advanced procedures than patients in government-controlled systems. Self-interested doctors and hospitals competing for patients provide superior care to bureaucrats managing healthcare for the public good. Public education demonstrates the same pattern domestically. When schools operated in competitive markets during the 19th century, literacy rates rose rapidly and costs remained low. Government monopolization of education, justified by serving all children rather than profitable ones, produced declining performance despite massive spending increases. Self-interested private schools consistently outperformed their altruistic government counterparts. Urban planning provides another revealing case study. Cities that developed organically through individual property decisions, like Houston, remain more affordable and economically dynamic than those subjected to comprehensive government planning. Self-interested property owners make better land use decisions than planners claiming to serve the broader community. The Postal Service illustrates how replacing self-interested competition with government monopoly degrades service quality. Before government monopolization, private postal companies provided faster, cheaper, more reliable service. The self-interested Pony Express delivered mail across the continent faster than government systems could manage local delivery. Even in charity, government replacement of voluntary giving reduces both efficiency and effectiveness. Private charities must satisfy donors to survive, creating accountability and innovation. Government welfare programs, funded through taxation rather than voluntary contribution, develop bureaucratic bloat and create dependency rather than solving problems. The empirical evidence consistently shows that attempts to suppress self-interest through government control produce inferior outcomes while requiring coercion to maintain. Market economies based on self-interested cooperation create prosperity, innovation, and freedom. Government systems claiming altruistic motives deliver poverty, stagnation, and oppression. Chapter 6: The Ethics of Voluntary Exchange. The moral superiority of market-based self-interest over government coercion becomes clear when we examine the voluntary nature of market transactions versus the force inherent in political solutions. Every market exchange benefits both parties, otherwise, they wouldn't voluntarily participate. Government programs, by contrast, require forcing some people to pay for benefits given to others. When you purchase groceries, both you and the grocer benefit from the transaction. You value the food more than the money you pay, the grocer values your money more than the food he sells. This voluntary exchange creates mutual benefit without requiring anyone else's participation or sacrifice. The selfishness of seeking personal benefit through trade actually ensures that trading partners benefit each other. Compare this to government redistribution programs. When politicians take money from taxpayers to fund welfare programs, they're using force to accomplish what they claim markets cannot. The taxpayers don't voluntarily contribute, they're compelled under threat of imprisonment. The recipients may benefit, but the transaction isn't mutually beneficial because it requires coercing unwilling participants. Consider employment relationships, often criticized as exploitative. In free markets, workers sell their labor only when they consider the wages superior to alternative opportunities. Employers hire workers only when their productivity exceeds their cost. Both parties voluntarily participate because both expect to benefit. Government minimum wage laws, intended to help workers, actually prevent mutually beneficial transactions between willing participants. International trade demonstrates this principle globally. When American companies manufacture products overseas, critics call it exploitative. But examine the actual relationships. Foreign workers accept these jobs because they represent improvements over local alternatives. Companies relocate production because costs are lower. Consumers benefit from reduced prices. Every participant voluntarily chooses their role because they expect personal benefit. Government trade restrictions, justified as protecting domestic workers, actually force consumers to pay higher prices while preventing foreign workers from improving their situations. The altruistic policy requires coercion while the selfish market creates voluntary cooperation. The pharmaceutical industry again illustrates this principle. Drug companies invest billions developing medicines because patent protection allows profitable returns. Patients purchase medications because they value health improvements more than the price paid. Doctors prescribe treatments they believe will help patients while earning income from their expertise. Everyone participates voluntarily and benefits mutually. Government price controls on medications, intended to help patients, prevent these voluntary beneficial relationships. When governments force prices below market levels, companies reduce research investment, creating fewer new treatments. The compassionate policy ultimately harms the very patients it claims to help by reducing future medical options. This voluntary aspect of market relationships explains why free economies consistently produce greater prosperity, innovation, and social cooperation than coercive alternatives. Chapter 7: Practical Applications for American Prosperity. Understanding how properly channeled self-interest serves society better than forced altruism provides a roadmap for restoring American economic vitality. The evidence from successful reforms worldwide demonstrates that unleashing competitive self-interest consistently produces superior outcomes to government micromanagement. School choice represents perhaps the most promising application of these principles. When parents can choose their children's schools, self-interested educational entrepreneurs must satisfy customers or lose business. This competitive pressure produces higher academic achievement, greater innovation, and lower costs than government monopoly schools. Countries implementing robust school choice systems, like the Netherlands and Sweden, achieve better educational outcomes while spending less per student. Healthcare reform offers another crucial opportunity. Moving toward market-based medicine, where providers compete for patient satisfaction rather than bureaucratic approval, would reduce costs while improving care quality. Singapore's mixed system, combining market competition with targeted subsidies, delivers excellent outcomes at fraction of American costs. Self-interested doctors competing for patients provide better care than bureaucrats managing healthcare for the public good. Deregulation of transportation demonstrates these principles in action. Airline deregulation eliminated government route and price controls, allowing self-interested airlines to compete freely. The result: lower fares, more routes, and better service than the previous regulated monopoly system provided. Similar deregulation of trucking, railroads, and telecommunications produced comparable improvements. Tax policy reform could harness self-interest more effectively by reducing rates while broadening the base. Lower marginal tax rates encourage productive economic activity rather than tax avoidance. Simplified tax codes reduce compliance costs while increasing voluntary compliance. Countries implementing such reforms, like Ireland and Eastern European nations, experienced rapid economic growth. Welfare reform should emphasize market-based solutions that align recipients' self-interest with productive activity. Earned income tax credits, for example, supplement low wages rather than replacing work entirely. Private job training programs, competing for placement success, outperform government programs because their self-interest aligns with participant success. Financial regulation should focus on property rights protection rather than micromanaging investment decisions. When investors bear the consequences of their choices, they make better decisions than when government guarantees protect them from losses. The savings and loan crisis and 2008 financial crisis both resulted from government policies that socialized losses while privatizing gains, corrupting normal market incentives. Infrastructure development works best when user fees connect service quality with provider revenue. Private toll roads maintain better surfaces than government highways because self-interested operators must satisfy customers. Airport privatization in many countries improved service while reducing costs because competitive pressures replaced bureaucratic indifference. Agricultural policy should eliminate subsidies that distort production decisions while maintaining strong property rights. Self-interested farmers make better land use decisions than government planners when they bear the full costs and benefits of their choices. Countries reducing agricultural intervention consistently improve productivity while lowering food costs. These reforms work because they align individual self-interest with social benefit through competitive market mechanisms rather than trying to suppress self-interest through government coercion. Conclusion. The empirical evidence conclusively demonstrates that self-interest, properly channeled through competitive markets and strong property rights, serves society far better than altruistic intentions channeled through government coercion. This isn't mere theory, it's observable reality confirmed by decades of comparative economic performance. Countries embracing economic self-interest consistently outperform those trying to suppress it. Private enterprises motivated by profit deliver superior goods and services compared to government agencies claiming to serve the public good. Voluntary market transactions create mutual benefit, while political redistribution requires force and produces inferior outcomes. The invisible hand of market coordination proves more effective than the visible hand of government planning. When individuals pursue their own interests within competitive frameworks, they unknowingly coordinate their actions to serve broader social purposes more efficiently than any conscious central planning could achieve. America's future prosperity depends on recognizing this reality and implementing policies that harness self-interest rather than fighting it. School choice, healthcare reform, deregulation, and tax simplification all work by aligning individual incentives with social benefit through market competition. The choice is clear: we can continue expanding government programs that sound compassionate but deliver inferior results, or we can embrace market solutions that harness self-interest to create prosperity for everyone. The evidence overwhelmingly supports choosing freedom, competition, and the proven power of individual initiative operating within voluntary exchange relationships.